JoJo on Magic in the Morning at AM 1340 WSTJ in St. Johnsbury. Sun's starting to, trying to break through the clouds out there. Let's head to St. Johnsbury. Check in with Mike Barrett from Barrett Insurance Agency as we continue to social distance. It's time for good policies. Mike, how are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Nice string of days here that we've had. I see you and the family have been out doing some mountain biking, huh?
Yeah. Got to take Ethan out on the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail the other day. You know, if you want a social distance, that's a good way to do it. While there were other people riding, they're 6 feet away and they're next to you for about a millisecond. So it was perfect. We had a nice little ride out towards Trestle Road and back, which, for a 6-year-old, that was pretty good. He wanted to turn around 2 miles in. I made him go 5. So
slave driver.
you want to have Daddy go for a bike ride, buddy? We're going. So
that's great. There was some good pictures on Facebook. All right, so got a question for you. Okay, this whole COVID-19 thing has changed everybody's life. It doesn't matter where you live in this world. It has changed people's lives. And we've been hearing and we've been seeing a lot of folks that have found that, maybe living in these big metropolises isn't what they really want in life. And they're starting to think that they want to move out to more rural areas like where we live.
Yeah.
And, I mean, obviously, like you just explained, we've got the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail. We've got all kinds of open spaces and stuff like that. But is that a good idea right now in the world of insurance?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, through this process, what we've noticed more than anything, early on especially, was that there were things that were in motion with people that were moving here from out of state that was not going to change. When you're in the process of purchasing a home and you've secured financing and the closing date has been set, you're all in, so the date doesn't change. It may be slowed down a little bit, maybe delayed slightly because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but you're still buying a house and you're still moving here. And I've seen many people moving in from out of state. And then since then, I've seen people, and it's actually been pretty well found that houses are selling pretty quick as people are trying to escape the larger areas to get a little more solace here in Vermont and New Hampshire. So we are seeing a little bit more of that, which is fine. And from a homeowner standpoint, that's not a problem. We've had to change the way that we review properties, as we historically have always done exterior/interior reviews of properties, especially when there's wood heat and different types of exposures. But we certainly want to adhere and respect people's wishes, so we've stayed exterior since this began, which is fine. We're still able to do what we need to do, and we can get photos when we need to. The challenge that I've noticed for people is with auto insurance. So let's say you've moved here from, let's use New York as an example. So you moved to Vermont from New York, and you've got your house, and you are just itching to, get your Vermont license and Vermont registration. But can you right now? Not really. Granted, I'm going off some possibly outdated information, but according to the blog that was posted on the Department of Motor Vehicles website back on June 17th, their offices are not providing in-person transactions, and some of the services are fairly limited. So what's that mean for you? Well, if you have moved here, and again, I'm using New York as an example, you'd say you've moved here from New York and you are ready to pull the trigger and switch to Vermont auto insurance. And there's many reasons you're going to want to. If you've moved from New York, and I'm talking more of the southern parts of that state, you're going to like the rates that Vermont auto insurance will be providing. It's going to be very enticing for you to want to pull the trigger the second you hear how much it costs, because it's going to be a lot less than what you're paying in the metropolitan area. But can you do it right now? That's the big question mark. Many people don't realize this, but vehicles need to be insured in the state in which they are registered, okay? So you cannot have a New York registered vehicle on a Vermont auto insurance policy. And I use New York as an example because that's a pretty good one. New York being a no-fault state where Vermont as an at-fault state. What does that mean? Well, in Vermont, if you are the one that's liable for injury to others, your insurance pays. In New York, everyone pays for themselves. Although you can still be charged with at-fault accidents, their insurance regulations are different. And in New York, the state monitors whether you have insurance or not. So if you have a registered vehicle, but they find out that you do not have insurance, that can be a problem for you because they can come back and suspend your license for noncompliance, many other things that can occur. So the big key here is that you just can't pull the trigger on switching to a Vermont auto insurance policy until you've got Vermont tags. Now, there is a little leniency on the licensing part of it. If you don't have a Vermont license, that's not a big deal because you'll get one. And let's think about all the people who are snowbirds who may have a Florida registered vehicle and a Vermont registered vehicle, or Arizona registered vehicle and a Vermont registered vehicle. You don't have to have licensing in both states, so that's not as big of a deal. So that's not going to hold the process up. But the big key here is your vehicle registration really determines what you have for insurance. And here's the biggest reason. Because every state has its own laws for insurance regulations, if you have a New York registered vehicle, in order to be complicit and compliant with New York law, you need to have a New York policy that still holds the regs. Now, all insurance policies will change. So if I'm driving from Vermont to California, every state that I pass, my Vermont insurance will meet the requirements of the state that I am in at the time. So it's not a big deal. So that's something I thought I'd share with because I foresee a long line at the DMV when things start to get back into action there.
Well, I'm seeing it too. I had to recently renew my registration and could only do it online. But that's not setting up new registered vehicles or getting a state of Vermont driver's license. So,
yeah, and one thing I did see is that right now, if you are doing a transfer or a new vehicle registration, I believe you can get the forms from the DMV website and mail them in. And there is some information on there on how you can do it, but that's going to be a little bit of a slow process. And also, when you're moving here from other states and you need to get a VIN verification, I believe last I checked, they had waived the requirement of the VIN verification temporarily. So that can be helpful in the process. It's not going to speed it up a lot, but it will make it a little easier in these times. So I recommend for guidance, if you've moved to Vermont or even New Hampshire, if you're listening in New Hampshire this morning and you are trying to become a resident, you've purchased property, you're looking to get things transferred over, go to the Department of Motor Vehicle websites, call the Department of Motor Vehicles, get guidance. And again, once you've gotten registration into the state that you are in, Vermont or New Hampshire, that is when it would be deemed appropriate to get the insurance in that state.
That's a lot of great advice, Mike, and it's just like we always talk about every week we come together. The insurance industry is pretty complex. You've probably brought some questions to our listeners' minds here. Why don't you give them their contact info?
Sure. You can give us a call. Barrett Insurance, we're at 748-5224. Our office is physically located at 309 Portland Street, St. Johnsbury. You can also find us online, where if you are interested in getting an online home or auto quote, you can go to thebarrettagency.com. It's free. We're also on Facebook, YouTube, and Google as Barrett Insurance Agency.
Thank you so much, Mike. I hope you enjoy the day. Give our best to Jen and the rest of the crew, and we'll chat with you next week, okay?
Absolutely. Stay well, and looking forward to seeing you face-to-face again someday.
It will be soon, trust us. Thank you, Mike. This has been Good Policies with Barrett Insurance Agency. We had the music with